Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're listening to this, whatever time of the day or night it is, you are with us. Sunday night, that Millwall podcast, your post-match reaction after the woeful defeat at home at the hands of Wrexham, newly promoted Wrexham, getting their first ever championship win at the hands of Millwall. As usual, you couldn't write it, but we could as Millwall fans. As you see, there's no Mickey, no Omar, no Frankie either. You're joined by myself. And we've got Alex Grace with us tonight, freelance journalist, writes a lot for Millwall Podcast. Find a lot or most of Alex's work on at thatmillwallpodcast.com. Go and check it out. Alex, how are you, mate?
I'm all good, Jay. Thank you. Yourself?
I'm all right now that I've had time to calm down. I think that's the best way to describe it, because yesterday, absolutely, probably felt exactly the same as other people did in the chat. But we'll say hello to the chat and welcome, boys. Welcome, Bobby. Good evening to you, mate. Connor, good evening. Peter, Chris, stop smoking. Shit, Bobby. Yeah. Evening, Oxan. Evening, Carl. Dan, Mr. Good evening. So, good evening, Diggs. Evening, Craig. How are we? How are we, everybody? Get in there. Andrew, not the Andrew Roberts or the Andrew Roberts. Matt, how are you, mate? Welcome. I am Millwall. Bobby again and Dan Riggs. Good evening. And everybody else. Before we get started and run the intro, please like, please share, please subscribe. And we will see you after this.
Language you don't usually hear on television. Millwall in London's Dockland.
No one likes it, but we don't care. We're that Millwall podcast. Loud every Friday night right here. Legends like Jimmy and Abdul take a share of the kitchen or two. Super Neil Harris, a fucking legend too. Through the good times when the strife will support the Lions all our life. This ain't no place for fancy feet. This is fucking Millwall through and through. Located on our very own John Ferguson way. Let them all come, let them have their say. Millwall till we die. With that Millwall podcast, guys. Loud every Friday night right here.
Yeah, hello, welcome back to that Millwall podcast, your Sunday night live post-match reaction after the defeat to Wrexham. Like I said, if you're just new into the chat, please like, please share, please subscribe. Alex.
Yes, mate.
Yesterday, we kind of, in typical Millwall fashion, we have these games and we go, do you know what? That's got 1-0 or a 2-0 loss written all over it. We are the best club in the world at handing the team their first win. You kind of could smell it in the air yesterday. What was your gut reaction? You was obviously at the game like myself and many others, but you was in there talking to Alex Neil after. We'll come to sort of his comments after and what you made of it. But what was your gut reaction watching that performance yesterday?
Yeah, look, I think I've had a chance now to sit there and look at it again and watch back what was a difficult game in some ways. Look, I felt it was up to that final ball, wasn't it? That seemed to have everything going right. The build-up play was good enough, but it's just that final ball. You think back to some of the chances. Ivanovic heads one wide first half. Coburn has a great chance. Start the second half. Force the keeper into. I think it was Zach Sturge. Force the keeper into a save.
Yeah,
early-ish in the second half. But it was a lack of creativity. I think the use of the ball in the final third just wasn't good enough. And look, we say it so often, don't we? We always say you have to take your chances. And if your chances come your way, you have to take them. The first goal in the championship is so vital. And you've seen it with us. Look, in all the away games, we've got the first goal and we've won the game, and we've seen it through 2 home games. Look, we haven't scored the first goal and we've been punished because teams know how to nullify the threat. If you look at Wrexham yesterday, they came there they set up not to lose. As soon as they got the goal, they set themselves up and they defended brilliantly. You know, you can't fault that. They defended really well, and then they got the second goal, which killed it off. You know, it was tactically spot on from Phil Parkinson after they got in front. And that, I think, is the frustration. If you're from our side and you're looking at, right, what can we do? How could we have done it? How could we have changed it? And how can we try and break a team down? That's the worry for me, especially at home. They're going to have to learn how to break teams down. And that's what we're really struggling with, I think.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I think that this does stem from my point of view anyway, and I want to hear what you think in the chat and yourself, Alex. I think the formation for me, I do like 4-4-2. I think Millwall is a traditional 4-4-2 type of football team. But away from home, that works really well against teams that you expect to be on the front foot and attack, where you can be rigid in your formation, you can shut off space, hit on the counter by getting your two strikers up there, get the long ball up there and cause problems. And I think when you're at home doing that, you're meant to be the team that is going on the attack. And Wrexham and like Middlesbrough did what we do away from home, stifle the team and try and hit on the counter. And unfortunately, a 4-4-2 doesn't really work at home when you're trying to play that style of football, in my opinion. Wrexham millwalled us. That's exactly what they did. And Borough did the same. And Alex Neil, very much like the Borough game, rather than change the formation, he chose to chase the game with the personnel and the formation still in place, sticking Cooper up top. And we get caught yet again and on the counter, and they score another sloppy second goal. It's not ideal to have this home form. The home form really isn't good in this division, but we have won two very difficult away games. And if you was to flip them on their head and maybe lose the two away games, but win your two home games in the manner that we've lost and won them, lost both and won two, you probably wouldn't be too disheartened as such. But yeah, I think it's the manner that you said, the creativity, the fact that he had to put Crammer out at right back, our best centre half, just because the deliveries into the box weren't good enough, does speak quite a lot of volumes at what we probably do need, what we will touch on. But yeah, it just didn't fall for like you mentioned it. Ivanovic had a chance that he probably just expects the defender to get there and clear it. Doesn't quite react long enough. It goes over the defender's head, doesn't quite react quick enough. Can happen to anyone. It's understandable. And then Coburn has two fantastic chances, really good chances, and one where then when the keeper goes down with a concussion, and then Nisbet and I can't remember who else it was, might have been Cooper actually. They just sort of both lash it at the same time and sky it over the bar, and we could have played till right now, Alex, we wouldn't have scored.
Yeah, look, I think it was one of those that the ball weren't going to go in the net. I think you're right. We could be playing now and the goal still wouldn't have come. I mean, look, they even bring the sub keeper on who makes an outstanding save right at the end as well. So, look, I think sometimes the ball don't fall for you. It's clear at the minute that for whatever reason we can't seem to get it right at home. Which is a concern, because you don't want to be relying on your away form to get you the points you need, because you play 23 times at home. Not you want to get your home form right. But yeah, I think if you look at the start overall, look, it's 4 wins out of 6. You know, if you include the 2 cup games, it's 4 wins out of 6.
Absolutely.
I think the league home games, I do think if we score the first goal, they're very different games. You know, if you take the chances, they're very different games. You know, if you think back to Borough, you think if Casper's shot goes in off the line, you know, that's cleared off the line. If that goes in, it's a completely different game. If Coburn gets the equaliser, it's a completely different game. The only thing for me yesterday is really we had 21 attempts and only 2 on target. And that for me is a concern.
When you're playing with 2 strikers, especially.
Yeah. I mean, to have 2 attempts on target out of 21, you look at Wrexham, I think they had 6 attempts, 2 on target, 2 goals. You know when you're when you got someone like Kiefer Moore up front, right? He loves playing Millwall, right? I checked the stats yesterday. It's his 5th goal in 11 appearances against Millwall. So he knows how to do it, and he knows how to play Millwall. He knows how to score against us. Does it all the time. We should have signed him years ago when we had the opportunity to do it.
We have tried, didn't we? I suppose.
Yeah, a couple of years ago when he signed for Cardiff. I think it was quite close then when he signed for Cardiff. Obviously, he chose Cardiff instead, and I think he scored against us that season as well. But he's someone who goes in, he gets the header, he scores the goal. It's as simple as that. At the moment, we're lacking that bit of clinicality up front, and that's costing us quite dearly in home games in particular, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think what's more sort of disheartening for me, I mean, it definitely ain't for the want of trying. The lads go out there, they're putting in 110% effort. Like, it ain't coming off. Something's obviously not right, but I think it's the manner of the goals we're conceding at the moment, especially at home. They're so avoidable. They're so avoidable, even in the away game at Norwich. I want to talk about the keeper. It has been a subject before. You know, he made the mistake against Norwich. It was poor. But what was he doing yesterday? He comes off the back of probably the best goalkeeping performance of his career. One of the best goalkeeping performances I've seen for a long, long time by any Millwall keeper at Sheffield, arguably won us the game. And then he goes and throws it away like that, because what was his positioning? He was almost at right back. Kramer had it. He clearly held the call, Kramer, because he gets out of the way. He knows Bender's coming. If you come out, you've got to get that. And like you say, if we take our chances, it's a different game. But if we don't make them mistakes, also it's a different game.
Yeah, look, I think there's a couple of things wrong before it gets to Bender. Look, I mean,
the press play.
I've seen the goal back quite a few times. I mean, you know, the guy's got so much room in midfield to play the ball. I mean, why no one's gone from midfield to challenge him, to press him, to stop him being able to play that ball in, is a concern that Alex Neil will have. I mean, I know it was a different midfield, first time that Kundal and Mass had played together, but for me, that's basics. You've got to go and close that down. Bender has to do better. I mean, look, if you're coming out and you're making the call, you've got to get your hands up. And if you have to go through the player, you have to go through the player. You know, and if you have to take out your own player, you've got to do it. For me, he's come in a bit too far. You know, he's come out of his 6-yard box. He's come a bit too far for me. When I saw the ball coming in, I thought, right, well, this is one that can easily be dealt with by the defender. The keeper's come out, and you could tell straight away what was going to happen. It's whether it's a communication breakdown. I'm not sure. But if you look at some of the goals that we've conceded at home, you know, I think particularly back to, I think, was it the second or the third Borough goal? I think it was the second one that I was concerned about how the defence, how easy it was to get around them. But Bender has got to do better with that first goal. Look, I think the second goal, I think you could say that he's got to do a little bit better with that as well. And there is a question now because of the 2 cup games that we've seen from Max Crocombe. He's looked very good in both of those cup games, and it does beg the question: should it be changed? Because look, he hasn't covered himself in glory, Stephen Bender, in either of those 2 goals. And I just saw the comment there about his positioning on both goals not being right, and I do think that's correct. But when you make the call, as you said, Jay, you know, you've got to come and get the ball, or you've got to make contact with the ball, and he doesn't do either, unfortunately.
No, he doesn't. And there was a few performances like that yesterday. I thought the front 2 were I thought they were really subpar. I thought they really, even though that we wasn't helping them with getting good deliveries in the box, I just don't think they was helping our midfield by, they wasn't making runs. They wasn't trying to hit the channels to allow Kundal to break through the middle. I thought they was really, really poor yesterday. A couple bright sparks though, and one real bright spark that I didn't think was going to get to this point from how some performances had been of late. But since he acknowledged it, he's really took off. I thought Imaku was absolutely brilliant yesterday. And I thought he was the one that really did try and offer an answer. He was attacking, cutting inside, putting crosses in, taking shots on himself. He didn't look good at the start of the pre-season, and he took a lot of flack, Imaku, from myself as well. From myself, I can admit that I joined that club. He acknowledged it on social media as well, which is a bit unusual. He kind of, he took to social media. He liked a few posts about his performance not being very good, etc. And he's kind of took on a bit of a trajectory in there. He had a good end to his pre-season. Bit unlucky not to probably start some games with Femi and Negley playing, but the cameo appearances he's made so far have been very good. And a lot of people have said he can't start games. He's not a game starter. He's an impact player. I thought yesterday from the off, he was excellent.
Well, do you know, I thought they were the brightest spark, and I thought if you looked at where the creativity was coming from, it was down that left-hand side. I like the link-up play between Imaku and Sturge. I thought they looked really good.
It did.
And you felt if anything was going to happen, it was going to come from them too. I think Sturge suffered a little bit defensively. I think he got beat a couple of times too easily defensively, but that is because he was looking to help Imaku going forward. And I do think the two played well. I think they offered something a little bit different that maybe we haven't seen because we've not had the chance of it. And times like that, it's not a combination that's had the chance to play. Wouldn't usually. Yeah. I mean, you look at Joe Bryan's going to be the starting left back the majority of the time, and you look at Femi's going to play, isn't he? So Imaku, to be fair to him, I think he has taken a lot of flack. He's taken a lot of stick, but I think he's answering it by delivering on the pitch. And that's the best way to do it. He's someone for me who I'd love to see have a successful period of time. I'd love to see him do it because he's got the potential there to do it. It's just getting it out of him consistently. But that comes with regular game time, doesn't it? And he might get a chance now for regular game time with injuries to players in attacking positions. So, no, I think it's definitely something that going forward, I think will please Alex Neil, definitely.
Yeah, and it will certainly give him a good problem to have in what's been a pretty trying time, especially that area of the pitch. He didn't do himself no wrongdoing yesterday, Marku. Very, very pleased with him. And he made a nice social media post as well, saying that, look, this is not a marathon. This is a marathon. It's not over in 4 games. We got to go again. Showing a bit of maturity to himself as well, which is nice to see. So he was a bright spark. Another bright spark, I thought Kundal and Luongo I thought they did a good enough job in the absence of Billy and Casper. But Tristan Kramer, again, just seems to just get better and better and better and better. And I thought he dealt with more, just perfect. That first half, there was nothing in it for Kiefer Moore at all. He was at the back of his heels every time, winning every single header. He was hustling him. And at times he recognised Lenny's flaws of, the overlapping wingers that Wrexham like to play. They like to get forward really, really, really. Kramer can have my kids at this stage. Yeah, fair enough.
Brilliant.
He's got nice long hair, so as long as it's from an angry boy. It just, I've lost my train of thought now, Venom. Thank you. But with them overlapping wingers and the way they like to get the ball down and sort of press from the front, Wrexham, he recognised Lenny's not disability, because Lenny's been amazing, but he recognised that that's not Lenny's game anymore. And he understood that he had to get across and cover, and he did it perfectly. He just seems to keep excelling. And what's your thoughts on him so far? His short stint in the Mill shirt.
Do you know what? I think he's been outstanding. He has been absolutely outstanding. And do you know, we spoke to him. When did we speak to him? It was end of last season. And do you know, he's got such a smart football brain as well, because and you can see it in how he plays. But I think people, you know, you got to remember he was signed as a centre back. You know, he's signed as a centre back, and I actually think he's been playing brilliantly as a right back. He's matured into that position brilliantly, and you know, I saw a couple of things on Twitter ahead of the Sheffield United game about possibly keeping him at right back and moving Leonard to centre back. I mean, I wouldn't
that
be
was
so
my
sure
view.
on
I'm going to be
that.
honest. That was my view, but
Do you know, if it was playing a 5-man defence, I wouldn't be too concerned. I'm not sure about Lenny as a 2, but as a 3, I mean, we've seen him do it before.
Absolutely,
But I wouldn't be too keen on him in a 2. I think that puts a lot of pressure on him, you know, in a position that he's not a natural in. But Kramer's been outstanding. You know, he's been absolutely outstanding. I think it can be difficult because you're going from right back, you then go into centre back. It is a different challenge, and people have to remember that. You know, you're used to bombing forward quite a lot and creating chances and getting the ball into the back, you know, into the back channels and trying to get it into the box and things like that. As a centre back, you don't do that so much. You don't come forward as much. So. And you saw in periods yesterday where he was carrying the ball forward, trying to get the ball into the box because he's been so used to doing it at right back. I do think in the long term, I think he'll move back to right back. I think Caleb Taylor will end up starting, and he'll take the role of Japhet Tanganga had as the other centre half, because I think they're very keen to keep Kramer there, and I can understand why they'd want to keep him at right back because let's be fair to him, he's excelled in that position since he's come in, really.
Yeah, he's been excellent. To see what is he, 6'4", 6'5", a 6'5" centre half get up and down the way he does and have such good ball control is, you know, it's a bit of a phenom, and he's, you know, he's probably going to cost someone a hell of a lot of money in the future with the tools that he has. It's definitely great for us, and it's good for Alex Neil. It's probably why Alex Neil said at the forum that a right back is not a priority in the transfer window, or not a bleeding priority in the transfer window, because Lenny can play there. We do have Kramer as well. You mentioned Caleb Taylor as well. He made his debut, a short debut. Not an ideal time to make your debut when you're 2-0 down, you're chasing a game. But how did you think he fared? I thought we did okay.
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, it's always difficult to come in at that period. You know, you're 2-0 down in the game, you're trying to get back into it. It's never an easy time to enter the pitch. Listen, he did what he had to do. He dealt with everything that came his way. I think he made one loose pass that went straight to the Wrexham man. But no, look, he's a unit, isn't he? You know, in terms of size and yeah, you know, he fits right into that mold of our defence. You know, he looks like he'll end up partnering Jake Cooper. I would imagine that will become the new partnership. I'd still think they'd be very keen to keep Kramer out on the right. So I think there's a lot to look forward to with him. You know, we've got the 2-week break now to really mould him in. I think there's a good chance, I would say, he starts at Charlton after the international break. I think they'll look to put Kramer back in to into the right back role. But a question I've had, funny enough, which I haven't seen anyone pose this, the thought of maybe while we've got the injuries to Casper and to Billy and to that central midfield, or why not we put Lenny back into central midfield? He's someone that's got a bit of bite. That's his natural position in central midfield as well. You know, and he that's where he used to play. That's where he was signed to play as a central midfielder.
I think the issue for me with Lenny there,
and he offers the bite.
He does, and he's a leader. He can control the game pretty much from having that short span to direct the forwards, direct the wingers, and talk to the defence as well. I do like that about Lenny, but I think the problem with Lenny playing there is that when he was playing there, he was just getting so many injuries. You put yourself in the firing line playing at that position, don't you? And with someone of his age now and his injury history, he's going to go in for a 50-50 and that's going to be that for him. I would love it. I'd love to see it. I just don't trust it. I don't trust his body to hold up to it. Even more so the fact that he's been left on an island to just clear balls, put the odd slide tackle in, not get too physical in going in head to head with players. I think because he's been out of that game for so long and he's been in the position he's in at right back, I think if we put him there, it'll be pretty much a shock to the system. That sort of first challenge, I don't think his body would cope too much with it. It's definitely an option though, because, well, at some point, I mean, the way things are heading, and we'll talk about transfers in a bit, the way things are heading, I don't think we'll have much of an option, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, I would worry about the legs on him to play, to play the role, but he is that person that offers a bit of bite in midfield, which I think we did lack yesterday a little bit. But to be fair, I thought Kundal and Luongo did well. For the majority of the game, I thought they did do well. I mean, considering they hadn't started together before, thrown in a little bit. But no, I generally thought they did well. And for me, that's a good sign going forward, because we are very short in that area now because of the amount of injuries. I mean, we've got a lot of injuries in that area, a lot of injuries in general, it seems. I think it's 7 or 8 we've got out injured now. But the thing is, I don't think they can bring in someone to play in there because you've got your starters and your settled starters there. So for me, it'd be a waste of money to bring someone to play there, possibly a loan or something like that, maybe. But yeah, I mean, it is an option if needed. It's a sort of last ditch option, but it's certainly one that might have to be considered.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I probably would be okay with it in like a 5-man midfield where he's probably got a little bit more protection. He's got a couple of midfielders around him, something like a 4-2-3-1. But like you say, not having the legs anymore. In a 4-4-2, you're asked to do a hell of a lot. That's probably why it suits Casper and Billy. They're quite energetic. You know, Billy can get about the pitch and Casper can spread it. So it probably suits them more than it would suit Lenny right now in his career. He probably needs a little bit more protection. But it is getting to that point. And you touched on it there, injuries. I mean, we'll talk about Casper in a bit because it'll lead us on to the next segment that we want to talk about. But the injury list, the injury list, as you said, what is it, 7 out now? We've got Langstaff out.
Yeah. It's quite a lot.
Billy Mitchell, Femi Aziz, you've got Lovelace, you've got Coburn potentially picked up a knock yesterday. We haven't heard much about that. And they're all starters. These are first 11 starters, let alone the actual squad. What do you think's going on? I mean, what is it? Are we doing something wrong? Are we, what is happening?
It's so difficult to know, isn't it? Because you look at the type of injuries that are getting picked up, like a lot of it, it's hamstrings and muscle injuries, calf injuries, hip flexors, stuff like that. You do wonder, maybe, is there a problem somewhere? Is there an issue possibly with the warm-ups or the warm-downs or something like that? I mean, generally, if you look at those types of injuries, that's how they come from, stuff like that. Like a contact injury, I mean, you can't really do anything with a contact injury because it happens, and that's unfortunate part of football. Yeah. But the injuries that we seem to be getting are very, very similar. I mean, I remember a few years ago, I think back before Jed Wallace left, there was a spate of hamstring injuries then as well. So I don't know. There's something somewhere that suggests to me something is it's just not right somewhere. I don't know quite where, but obviously there's something that needs to be sorted down in that area somewhere.
Yeah, it's not ideal, and like we said, like Alex Neil made a big point at the end of last season discussing that injuries were probably a big reason why we did fall off in the playoffs. You know, we lost our goalkeeper, we lost Femi Aziz for a big chunk of time. We struggled. You know, we lost Coburn as well. He was out for a period of time before coming back late on. We did have injuries, and and Brian as well. He was out. And you think, yeah, that's right. Okay, brilliant. You've acknowledged that. We've had this problem for a few years. Excellent. What are you going to do about it? And he did say, you know, look, we need to make sure at next season we've got cover. We're going to do that. We seem to start off at the beginning of the window and at the end of the season with that decent cover. One player, you know, two players for each position. You're thinking, great. All of a sudden, it's happening again, and it's happening worse than it happened before after it being acknowledged. So yeah, I mean, are they lying to the manager? Is this a player issue? Are they telling them they're fine when they're not because of pressure to play, because you know of competition pressure? And they think, well, if I don't play this game, that's it, my position's gone. It could be a player issue. It could be a whole manner of things. But one thing's for sure is something definitely isn't right, and it's causing us now to luckily have this problem at the start of the season and when the window's still open. That does give you, after, even though, like you said, you can't just go out and buy starters because it's your starters that are injured, and you just create this problem yet again. You have to be smart and maybe get some loans to just backfill till January or etc. until players are back. But it is a problem, and we was hit again on Saturday after the game when you went and spoke to Alex Neil in the presser after the game to get his comments on the game, but also to talk about some players that weren't there. And Casper Denore was missing, but for what reason?
Yeah, so we asked Alex Neil at the end of the game as to where he was and stuff like that. I believe he was at the game. I think I saw.
He was. I saw
did
him.
See,
yeah,
I did see pictures of him that he was at the game. There was no. Well, I mean, there was a confirmation that he wasn't available, but there was no reason as to why he wasn't available. We were just told he was unavailable, and there wasn't a timescale on his return, which, you know, obviously, I mean, it's clear that it's an injury. If you're not in the team and you're not in the squad and you've played every game, obviously he's clearly picked up something between the Coventry game and here. We don't quite know what the issue is, but I'm sure it will come out eventually. I did see something on Twitter that someone said that he said to people that he had a hamstring issue. I don't know. That's something I saw on Twitter. But, you know, again, if he has, then that's another. Again, it just raises more questions, doesn't it, as to why maybe it wasn't said. I don't know. Maybe there's also the thing to say, look, does it put pressure on to say a player's going to be out for because he doesn't come back after that amount of time? I mean, I remember when a few years ago, back in the Neil Harris days, when I think it was Lee Gregory got injured somewhere, away at Birmingham or something like that, and he said that he'd be out for however long. He was then back the next game. So I think sometimes until they know exactly what the injury is, if it's got to be scanned, if it's got to be assessed, you can't always give a time period. You know, and I think they've been quite clear with some of the injuries that have come out, but others perhaps, again, it's to put pressure on the player to come back, and the player being ready to come back. And if he's not back at that period of time, you're thinking, oh, right, okay, is it just worth us not saying how long the injury's going to be? Which, from a fan base point of view, you can understand is a little bit frustrating for the fans because they don't know what the injury is. They don't know how long he's going to be out for. And for someone that's a key player like Casper is, played every game last season, and he's played every game this year. So he's a very key player. So it is difficult.
Yeah.
And I can understand the fan base then being a little bit, hold on a minute, why is he not telling us?
Yeah, it did strike me as a bit odd because, like you say, I mean, Alex Neil's always had a good reputation of he doesn't want to talk about injuries. Yeah, injuries is not his thing. He doesn't want to talk about it. But since he's been at Millwall, he's always made a point of at least telling us what the injuries are. He never normally gives us timelines or anything, but he says, look, Billy felt his calf, etc., or his quad, etc. Langstaff's got a hip flexor. He normally just gives us sort of a brief rundown. To say how he said it, that I think the direct quote was, he'll be available at some point. It just sort of struck me as this is one or two ways. It's either, look, he's just so pissed off that he's another fly has dropped, and this time it's a big one. It's the guy that makes you tick, or he doesn't want to rile the fan base up because these injuries are piling up. If he was to give an indication of how long he would be out, if it's a period of time and it's quite a significant injury, that then does open it up a little bit, especially when the window's open. It would put unnecessary pressure from the fan base. It would kick off a little bit. Look, the window's open. You need to get this sorted now. It does just tame the flames a little bit. Doesn't put them out. It's still not ideal because we're sitting there having a conversation about his response. So it doesn't really do much to put it out, but it also doesn't send pitchforks outside Carmont Road at this point.
No, I think sometimes as well there's time and a place for questions as well, and certain questions you don't always want to answer after a defeat. Look, I mean, I don't think he would have been best pleased with the team's performance yesterday, and sometimes, look, right after a game, right after you've just lost a game where you've not played particularly well and you've not been happy with how team have performed, the last thing sometimes you want to answer, look, is why is this player not in there? Why is that? Sometimes you're thinking, look, my focus is on why we haven't won the game. My focus is on this, why we didn't do this right, why we didn't use the ball, why we didn't cross the ball to this person and that person when the opportunity gave itself. If you think about it, at the end of the game, the reason we lost the game isn't because Casper De Norre wasn't playing. The reason we lost the game is because we didn't use the ball well enough in the areas that we should have used it. And that, I think, is probably what's going through his head at the time. And he's thinking, look, this is not a question that I want to answer at this moment in time. And look, and I can completely understand that, and you would think that, again, look, it'll be a question that pops up maybe later on in the week or in the build up to the Charlton game. It might come up and say, look, is he available? Is he not available? If so, do we have a timeline or something like that? I just think maybe at the time it wasn't a question that he wanted to answer in that moment, in that emotional state, because you're thinking, right, my focus is why I've lost the game, not why have I got this player not playing. Yeah,
I mean, and no doubt, that's probably what it is. He's probably seething inside as you're asking him the question. He's probably still thinking about who he needs to bollock even further, but he's been taken out of that moment because he has to do the media duties, and that's fair enough. If it was half an hour later and he'd calmed down a bit, he may have had a bit more time to answer that question. But it's he wasn't happy on the sideline. There's people I know that sit directly behind Alex Neil said he was really, really not happy, and at times what I could see very frustrating, going back to his bench, talking to David Livermore, talking to his assistant, screaming at players. He obviously wasn't in a very good mood. It's a game that we probably didn't expect to lose at all. At the very, very least, he probably would have still been upset if we nicked a draw. So, and that's not disrespecting Wrexham. They did an absolute job on us. You've got to give them credit for that. But yeah, I can probably put it down to, or from my point of view, that he was just really pissed off. Judging by the transcript that I've read from the questions that you asked, that Will asked, and others, yeah, he's just not a happy man. And is that the vibe that you got from being in there, talking to him after the game with some of the responses that he got? Did he mention what he was unhappy with?
Yeah, look, I think he was frustrated. I think the first question I asked him, I think I actually said to him, I said, look, is frustration your overall emotion from that game? And he said, yeah, because we did a lot of things right in terms of the build-up play and everything like that, but it was the use of the ball in those final moments. And that's what's frustrated him. It's frustrated him that we haven't done the things right in the final third of the game. And look, as a manager at the end of the game, the only thing you're going to be thinking of is look, why have we lost this game? Yeah. And I can completely understand that. I mean, look, the last thing you want to do after you've lost a game is come and talk to us. I mean, Of course it is. It's. I mean, we ask questions that you don't want to answer, and I can understand that. Look, I sat there with Gary Rowett, I've sat there with Neil Harris, I've sat there with Joe Edwards, Adam Barrett as well. It's a highly emotional moment, I think, for coaches, for managers, after they've lost a game, because it's thinking, where did it go wrong? And it's thinking, like, the last thing I want to have to come and do now is answer questions about this, that, and the other thing. Unfortunately, of course, that's part of the job. But no, I can understand the frustration that he would have, and he was frustrated yesterday because I don't know about you, but I saw a lot of similarities between the Middlesbrough game and the Wrexham game in terms of when we went behind, just couldn't seem to get back in the game. Couldn't seem to create anything. Couldn't seem to get that final ball right. And when you're on the sidelines, and I'm sure he's thinking is, look, he's standing on the sideline. He knows what he wants them to do, and for whatever reason, they haven't done it. And yeah, that's why he's got really frustrated. And as a manager, you want your manager to be frustrated when your team have lost. You don't want him to be all happy after you've lost a game, do you? So, certainly for me as a fan, I'd want to see my manager frustrated if I'm frustrated by the performance. And I think he mirrored that. He mirrored a very frustrated figure yesterday because of the way the team didn't do what he wanted them to do.
Yeah, you're right. And I think he even said, like, normally you hear on the back of these type of defeats, we've heard it from Harris, even Rowett, and at times it's, we didn't do the basics right. That's normally what you hear from a manager. The basics weren't done right. That normally leads to a loss. But from Alex Neil's point of view, we did the basics. The basics were right. We had the build-up play. Everything else was in place, and it was working. We just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net or keep it out the other end at two really crucial points in the game. The key points of the game were mistakes in defence and not being clinical enough up top. And that's even more frustrating because it's such an easy fix, such an easy thing to do when you've got, and I'm not putting this on prices paid, but what we believe prices are worth, when you've got like £20 million worth of striker up front, and you've got it dipped into the European market for creative players, you should be putting one of these chances away. Even if you get 3 or 4 major chances a game, one of them's got to be put away. And I think that will frustrate Neil a hell of a lot more. And you said it was very much like Borough. And I said it in the group chats that we had. This was carbon copy of Borough, because rather than change the formation and get an extra midfielder on there to try and open up some space, he went for the game. He stuck Cooper up top. And then again, we was caught on the counter and we concede again and we open ourselves up. If we would have done that earlier, like we did against Borough, we might have found ourselves 3 or 4-0 down against Wrexham. And I think that's the frustrating thing from someone who's not a 4-4-2 manager by his own admission. I think maybe he'll look at that as maybe I need to change it at home and keep the same sort of formation of 4-4-2 away to be a bit more robust when teams come at us, and go after it in a more creative type of way at home with an extra midfielder so that we can play through the middle, because Ivanovic and Coburn were completely not in the game at all yesterday until they had their moments in the box that they didn't capitalise on. And I think the frustrations are, like I just said, are even heightened because there's such simple things to fix. It wasn't like we did any basics wrong, which is quite unusual in a loss like that from a manager's interview.
Yeah, look, I think if you look at the basic things, yeah, we've done them right for the majority of the game. Yeah, you take out the errors, obviously, but you've done the basics right. You've done what it is that they want, that the manager wants you to do. When it then becomes difficult, is yeah, look, you haven't managed to get the front two involved. For me, and look, obviously, for me, there was a big gap between the midfield and the front two, and yes, they need service. I agree with that, but they weren't short of service. I don't think, particularly from Idemo. I felt he got a lot of balls in. He created a lot of opportunities. Sometimes it just isn't your day, which can happen. But I do think the closing of the transfer window will help. I think it's not been easy for the speculation. And look, if you look at the two strikers, they're both very young. You know, if you look at Ivanovic as well, there's been a lot of talk, hasn't there, and speculation, and it's going to get to a player's head. It's going to get to a player's head because it's natural. It always happens. And listen, I think you'll notice a difference in him when the transfer window closes, because there won't be so much speculation. He can get on, he can play his football, can play his game. And that will help a little bit. But I think he needs to get off the mark. I think that's a key thing for strikers every single season. They have to get off the mark quickly, because the more goals they score, the more confidence they get and everything like that. So that's a massive thing. And when your strikers aren't scoring, aren't getting the chances, it puts a lot of pressure then on the rest of the team. And I think that's what we saw a little bit of, where the chances weren't coming their way, they weren't getting them. And then for me, it looked as well, we just didn't have someone in midfield who just would shoot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The opportunity presented itself a couple of times. We didn't take that opportunity. And yeah, that's the frustrating thing, I think.
Yeah, it is. And for all the, we could downplay their performances and say, and they wasn't very good, but there was some effort there. Coburn, put himself between defenders, and you are just crying out at times for that central midfielder or that number 8 to be the one that breaks through the ranks, through the middle, to latch on to the strikers that in a 4-4-2, they tend to part to the side of the 18-yard box to allow the midfield to come up and sit on the edge of that box. There just wasn't someone there to latch onto the loose ball. We had countless, not so much goal mouth scrambles, but 6-8-yard box, 18-yard box scrambles where the ball's there to be hit by someone from the centre midfield to come up and just lash it, like we saw with Kasper at Borough. Just someone there on the edge ready to pounce. And Marku did it from sort of the edge on the corner of the box a couple of times. Kundal tries to create for others. The players that we're playing in there at the moment, their first instinct is not to have a shot. This is the problem that we've got. Their first instinct is to look up, who can I pass it to? And I think we lack that. We really lack that type of midfielder. I think Negley would be very good there. I think he's naturally a 10. I think that's probably the position for him in a sort of a 4-2-3-1, maybe RBW if he gets on as a 10. But we're finished with Wrexham game now. Credit to Wrexham. Yeah, they got their first win in the Championship at the hands of Millwall, as expected. I mean, only Millwall fans would have expected that. So it didn't really wrench the heart too much. It's more of and it's more anticipation and expectedness than being punched in the gut. But we've got an international break now, which is nice for us because that means that some injured players that were say out for 6 weeks, they've got a couple of weeks now where that doesn't actually affect the season, so they're a bit closer to getting fit. But the window is still open. We've got under 24 hours now, haven't we? Just an hour. So we've got 23, 21 hour, 22 hours left of the window. We have signed someone, a midfielder that we've been calling out for. So we'll start with him. It's Derek Mazu Sacco, what was Redes, I believe he played for, the central midfielder for them, young 20-year-old. He's going to be 21 years old in October, from France, played in Ligue 2. He's played 5 games for the French under-18 side, scoring 1 goal. He signs today as broke by Will, played for Rodez. What's your thoughts on him? Gallen has said that he's going to be around the first team. Yeah, they've scouted him for a long time. It's probably going to take him a while, but it's good to get a midfielder in the door, someone who looks to me who can carry the ball big and physical, something that we've lacked.
Yeah, look, I think it's important. It's another important arrival. Look, I think any of the signings that they've made, particularly, I think that Steve Gallen's made, he's done very, very well with the signings that he's made. They've scouted them for a long time. They've targeted the players they want, and look, I think he'll add quality to the team. He will add that because I think you're right in what you say. We've been carrying on, crying out for someone who can carry the ball forward. We missed, and you could tell that yesterday. We missed that yesterday. Yeah. Someone who could just carry it forward, then make a pass, create a chance for one of the strikers to score. I think it's a player that I think we have been calling out for. Like, I think you hit the nail right on the head there. It's definitely a player I've been calling out for, and someone that we can bring in and could just add to what we've already got, but just make it a bit better.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Very exciting. The problem for me with this, I mean, I love the signing. It's the Vauxhall Vieira, the Peckham Vieira. Get your best ones in the chat, guys. I've gone for the Peckham Pogba. What you got, Alex? Anything?
Peckham Pogba. That's brilliant. I've just got there the Vauxhall Vieira. I saw that one. That one's good. I did see another one as well. I can't remember where he's gone.
Have you got one on the top of your head? You want to drop in there?
Have I got one on the top of my head? No, I haven't. Come back to me. Come back to me. I will think of one.
Drop them in the chat.
Brilliant.
in the chat.
I do like that.
But I think for me, look, I absolutely love this signing. I think this is going to be. I think he's going to be the mainstay in that midfield for a long time. Hopefully, the problem I've got is that does that really fix what we have now with the issues we have in midfield now? With someone that needs to come in and go, right, I'm going to take over until Casper's back, until Billy's back. This is my slot. I can run this. I don't know if it does that because I don't think he's going to be able to start straight away. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think he could go straight in? What are you thinking?
The depth of Deschamps, that one's good. Yeah, look, I think in the current situation we're finding ourselves in, look, he's got to come in. I think you've got to give him a chance. You've got to see how he goes. Does he give a bit more quality than perhaps what Kundal and Luongo do? I'd say probably yes. But look, you've got to not rush it. You've got to Southwark Seedorf. Brilliant, I love it. You've got to see how he gets on and everything like that. But the good thing is he's got the 2-week break now. He's going to be in for that period of time. The Millwall Makaleli, brilliant. He's got that time now. He can come in. He can adapt to the role. He's got time for Alex Neil to really see where he wants him, if it'll work. Can he go straight in, for instance, for the Charlton game or something like that? I do think he could possibly solve the problem we've got while we've got Billy and Bermondsey Ballack, another one. Well, we've got Casper and Billy out, I do think he's a good option.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I still think we need one more. I still think we need one more in there. Perhaps a loan or something. But the window is open, and we've made our first signing in the running up to it. I mean, obviously, we signed the keeper. We signed Caleb Taylor as well. What incomings do you think that, not necessarily that we know, but that you need? What do you think we need?
You know, I've looked at different areas. I mean, the right back issue has been debated, hasn't it, for a long, long time? You know, do we need to bring in a right back? There's Fernando who says we need a right back. For me, with Taylor coming in, he's going to be the centre back alongside Cooper, you know, because otherwise,
do you think he starts that quick? Then, Al? Do you think that's it? He goes straight in, and that's that. No understudy for a few weeks. Throw him in at the deep end.
I think they'll bring him in for Charlton, because personally, that's my fault. I think they will bring him in for Charlton, and they'll go back to having Crammer at right back. I know he's not a natural fit, but he's been good in that position. You think they've got Danny Mack, they've got Ryan Leonard. You know, all right, Danny's injured, but when he comes back, he's going to be given the chance, I would assume. So I can understand why people would say, look, we need a right back. I can understand why people would say that's good. I like that.
I love that one. That's my favourite one. Stephen Bevan.
That is brilliant. I like that one. I can see why people say, look, we need a right back, because Crammer isn't an out and out right back. He's adapted well to the position. But for me, I do make you right. I think they could do with one more in central midfield. I think they could also do potentially with another winger to help out the demand there. I was looking at Negley, who to me I think would suit being a 10.
Yes, absolutely.
I think he'd suit being a 10 a lot better than out on the wing. But it's difficult because I'm not necessarily a 4-4-2 person. You know, I think we'd be better with a 4-2-3-1. But I can understand why he's gone with a 4-4-2 because of having the two strikers. That is an interesting one there.
That is a really interesting one.
You know, he's been linked a few times to us. He has been linked. I'm not actually sure whether he is still available or not. I haven't seen him signing for anyone. But for me, he would be a very, very good option to bring in if they were thinking about it. But
I think the issue with the right back
are the priority areas.
Yeah, and I think with the right back, I mean, look, we don't know how Danny's going to be. I love Danny Mack for a start. I think Danny, for me, is probably the best pound for pound one-on-one defender at the club. I think he's extremely good as a one-on-one defender. In fact, I think he's elite at that part of his game. The problem with Danny is and as it always has been, is going forward his delivery. And I just think that now in this system or under Alex Neil, and Crammer has shown that it's such a need that we desperately need a different type of right back, an attacking right back. Lenny's very much not an attacking right back now. You know, Father Time is undefeated. He will drop deeper and deeper. And Danny Mack is very much the same. He's not an attacking right back. Crammer proving that he can be. I think that highlights the need more for that specific type rather than the right backs that we have at the club, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think in the system that Alex Neil wants to play, you need to have a right back who's got pace and has got the quality to deliver the ball. And you see the difference with having Crammer playing at centre back. Yeah, look, spot on. You need someone like Alfie Doughty on the right. You do. You need to have someone who can have the pace going for and can deliver a ball like that. I mean, the interesting thing there about Alfie Doughty, though, is that how and where the club actually planned for him to play is in midfield. So
well, they don't view him as a, and he's not actually.
they don't view him as a left back. Yeah, so they actually view him as a midfield option rather than an actual left back option. But you need someone like him on the right who can deliver it. But Crammer, to be fair, I think, listen, he's done the job. I think for this window now, it's one to look at in January for me. I just don't see a right back coming in between now and the deadline. Because look, they can say they've got Lenny. You have even got Wes Harding can play there as well if necessary. So they've got enough options that can play there. But I can understand why people would say you need to put someone in. I would say, look, target it for January. If I was Alex Neil, I'd have the recruitment team saying, right, I need a right back. Let's target that for the January window. I think we could probably do with another, or we can deal with it till then. But we need to look at bringing someone in by then.
Yeah, I think the worry with it is that if it's all well and good under Neil's system with the likes of Brian, who does that very well, bombs forward, and Crammer. If Brian goes down, it's okay. You can put Sturge in there. You don't lose too much cohesion. You don't lose too much fluidity within the system. If Crammer goes down, then it becomes a major issue because then you're handicapped. Then you've sawn one leg off. I think that's where the sort of the worry comes from. That no one's got a problem with Crammer playing there for now, but we do need a long-term option there, and we do need someone that if Crammer does go down, to fill that void. And I don't think we've got anyone at the club that can do that, because it's great that when you do have that option, then you've got Crammer who can fill that void if that person, if he goes down. So I just think that the worry there is he's not having someone to back them up. I know that Casper can play there if he has to. Billy's played there before, but these are all things we don't want to do, and it will force Alex Neil at some point, if the injuries hit us that bad, to end up just going a three at the back and playing a 3-5-2 and having more. Femi's played in that position quite fluidly. That wing back Doughty obviously flourished in it. So I just don't want it to do that to the team, and we look back and go, should have got a right back.
Yeah, I can see what you mean there, and look, if that ends up being the area that costs us going forward, you're going to be like, right, yeah, okay, we should have done something, but the club will argue, and I think Alex Neil will argue, look, we've got enough options to play there for now, but come January, we really need to look and see how it can go. And we need to see if we can bring someone in potentially for January. So
agreed.
Just see that one there. He's got big fears there about Taylor and Cooper as a centre-back partnership.
This is what I was going to touch on later. I do as well. Yeah. Not greatly, but it's definitely there in the back of my mind that if they get hit on the turn, that's going to be a bit of a weak spot.
Yeah, no, Cooper he's never had particularly great pace, Jake Cooper. He's a tall man, he's never been pacey, I think, in the entire time that he's been here. Taylor, again, I don't think has got masses of pace. I can see why there's concern there. That'll definitely be something to look at. Very interesting as to how Alex Neil will pay it. So I'm not quite sure on that. But it is a partnership that I can see why people would say that there'd be concerns.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And you mentioned there that I think we're all in agreement that we do need another central midfielder. We have been linked with Alan Brown of Sunderland. That is out there. We're probably looking at more of a starter type central midfielder to come in. I do think that Derek is going to be probably a little bit raw to start with. He's going to need to be around the team first. So we do have an opening. I think someone like Alan Brown will come in. Is there any other names that you've heard of that they're potentially looking at? Obviously, unconfirmed reports, but, it's nice to speculate on rumours. What sort of names have you seen floating about?
I have seen the one about Alan Brown going around. I mean, I did see someone mention about Josh Brownhill. He's looking like he's going to a Saudi club.
Lots of money he wants as well, yeah.
Yeah, he's going to go out for a lot of money in the Saudi Pro League. I mean, look, terrific midfielder, and someone who I would love to have seen down at Millwall, because I think he'd have fitted the Alex Neil system really, really well. As a goal scoring midfielder, takes the ball forward, can take free kicks, can do this, can do that. I actually remember Burnley on the final day of last season. He ran that midfield brilliantly.
Yeah.
Was very good from set pieces and stuff like that. Alan Brown, it's one there that Alex now did know him at Preston. Again, it's a player that I think would suit again our problems that we've currently got.
Yeah.
I think a lot of exits from Premier League clubs are going to depend on if they've sorted their business out.
Yes.
A lot of any loan moves are very dependent on the Premier League clubs getting their players. I mean, I think back to some of the deadline day stuff that happened last year in the Premier League. There was a lot of moves that didn't happen because of the chain of things didn't work. I think even Millwall had potentially.
Then we have Godot from Fulham, wasn't he one that fell through for that very reason?
So that one never happened because Fulham never got the player in they wanted, so that deal never happened. And I think that also meant that Idemo didn't go out on loan to Wickham, I think it was. That deal couldn't happen because you couldn't get the player in. So it's very difficult sometimes to bring players in to make everything work. But Alan Brown, look, that for me would be a very, very good player to come in because he knows the system, he knows Alex Neil, and it would suit us down to the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got abundance of experience, leadership. He's been a captain everywhere he's been at. Like you said, he knows the system. He's someone that is plug and play, instantly fixes that. So I'd like to see in there with Casper De Norway running that midfield. He's someone that can get forward as well. He's only 30. He's not over the hill by any means. He can run a midfield. He can get forward and create. And I think he would be, someone said it a minute ago, while he might not be the most flashiest of signings, he's not going to get you, he's not going to walk out on the pitch like Ivanovic holding his shirt in the air. Not that type of signing, but a very shrewd signing, the signing that you'd look back on and go, that was really integral at that point, getting that player in. He really did a job for us.
Do you know, I think he played in the same Preston midfield as, I want to say Paul Gallagher. I think that's the name I want to say. I can't quite remember if that's his name or not. But but they ran that Preston midfield brilliantly.
Yeah.
They're a fantastic partnership. It's teams like that and players like that I think Millwall need just to shore up that midfield while obviously they've got injuries and suspensions and God knows else what that's going to happen throughout the season, which you get anyway. You need options, and I think we've been very light in central midfield last season, and we do look as still a little bit this year. Ben Pearson, I think that might have been the one. Ben Pearson and Alan Brown, an excellent partnership. I think that's something where we can look to build on. Bring someone like that in, a very shrewd signing, as you said there.
Yeah, no, and what he'll do for the likes of, you know, Derek coming in as well. There might be a bit of a language barrier there, but just how he conducts himself. The guy's played, hundreds of championship or EFL games. Clearly someone that knows how to look after himself, knows how to stay in the league, knows what it takes to get out of the league as well. Someone that players like Casper, even Casper, at his age and his experience and his quality, they should all want to talk to Alan Brown. All should want to get round him. What is it that you do? What is it that made your teams tick? And someone for Alex Neil to hold accountable in the team. Someone that he can get quick messages across. Because he already knows the system inside out. There'll be key words that he already knows. He'll be able to hit the ground running, which I think was so key that when Harris come back, when we was, dead and buried, you didn't see Casper. You saw Billy Mitchell. You saw players that Neil instantly knew and trusted, that fitted his system straight away, that were plug and play, that could go and get him a result on the Saturday at Southampton from him walking in the door 2 days earlier. Alan Brown would kind of be that type of signing for Alex Neil, and he would be plug and play. And I think he would be a very, very underrated signing. Probably would be a loan because, you're not going to remove the three that are Billy, Derek, and Casper at the moment, and even Luongo as well. But it would definitely be shrewd business, and I think that would be two decent centre midfielders you can get in there. One young, one experienced to fill the void.
Well, the thing is, if you look at Alan Brown as well, it's an experienced head. If you look at that midfield and you look at the team as a whole, it lost a lot of experience in the summer. George Saville, George Honeyman, Sean Hutchinson. That's three people alone with hell of a lot of experience, a hell of a lot of appearances, and they are players that you need to replace that bit of experience. And Alan Brown would be someone who should be a permanent move. But do you know what? I think it would be a very shrewd signing. Look, it's not someone that's gonna be the big fan happy signing, but it's someone who will do a job, will do the exact job for you, and will lead and give a bit of experience to some of those who perhaps haven't had that level yet, haven't learned that much about the game yet, and are still learning. He's been there, he's done it, and he can help them out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really intrigued, and I'm looking forward for that one to happen if that does happen, because I think that would be a really, really good signing. And let's be real, right? People talk about experience. Experience used to come in the form of being in your late 20s, early 30s, and playing over 400 games. That doesn't happen no more. And you've got guys in their early 20s that have made 150, 200 appearances already. You've got the bracket is getting lower and lower and lower for guys that have been experienced. You don't have to play amount of games anymore. You've got players that have played in big games, real big games, that are seasoned, very, very young now. So to get someone like Alan Brown, who's got both of that, he's gone through the ranks. He's now at that stage in his career where he can offer someone else so much. It definitely wouldn't be something to be sniffed at. And no doubt he will have his suitors. So I expect it to be a busy day for Alan Brown tomorrow. But there is another player that has sort of been hit over socials today, actually, only hours ago, that this name has been thrown out there. You mentioned that we probably do need another winger. You've got Doughty out. Negley's not a typical winger. You've got Kundal playing out there. Femi's now out as well. Thierno Ballo is a name that has been floated about today. He's born in in Ivory Coast. He's got a citizenship in Austria, plays out there as well. I've had a look at him. He looks very, very fiery, very aggressive. What a player he looks. What's your thoughts on him? Plays for Wolfsberger AC.
Yeah, do you know, from what I've seen and the clips and stuff that I've seen that have gone around today, he looks a real talent. Looks fiery, looks pacey, looks like something that, again, would fit well into this team. I like that. That's someone who can just offer something a bit different, can offer that bit of fire, that bit of pace that I think we do lack without Femi in the team. And yeah, you did mention about Camille Negley, not probably a natural winger. Could fit straight in there. Would help create chances, and I think also wouldn't be afraid to have a pop at goal either, which is something we've both said today, that was clearly missing yesterday.
No, absolutely. And look, and at 23 years old as well, he's not completely, 19, 20-year-olds we're sort of used to looking at, especially with Derek coming through the door. He's 23. He's an attacking left winger, but he's right-footed. And when you look at our typical class of winger that we've got at the moment, you've got Femi, left-footed, likes to play on the right. You've got Doughty, left-footed. Negley, left-footed. The only one that we have got who's right-footed and plays out there at the moment is Marku. And, Marku's having a bit of a surge at the moment, playing well. But we need someone else out there as well. If Marku has an off day, or someone to just pip in Marku to keep the balance. Femi has made it very clear before he likes to play on the right-hand side. He likes to cut in on his left. This looks the same sort of profile of player in Ballo, who likes to play on the left, cutting on the right, can also play centre forward, play attacking midfield as well. And from the clips I've seen today, as you rightly said, not afraid to just hit one from distance, and looks a real solid talent. If you could get this one over the line, I think this would be a massive sign. It's someone who could probably go really quite high in the footballing world.
Oh God, yeah. Look, I think it would fit with the club's plan of how they've gone about the transfers, wouldn't it? Bring someone in who's got a lot of potential, get as much as you can out of them, and then get the offers up, and allow them to move on. Is someone who definitely would. I think the Championship would be a perfect league for him to come in and stake a claim, because to me he looks like someone who could well go on to a higher level. He's definitely got that about him. You can go on and play definitely at a level where it's higher than where we are currently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's someone who would suit the Premier League come the future, I think, from what I've seen anyway, and the clips we've had.
Oh, absolutely. And he's quite seasoned as well. He's bounced around. He's at the Chelsea youth team. So he's been in London. He knows the culture. It's not like this is the typical or the European guys that we've gone after recently, and your Negleys, Ivanoviches, etc. And now with Derek, this is someone who already knows the area. He bounced around, went to Rapid Vienna, had a couple loan spells. So he's been at some big clubs, been at some massive clubs. So it wouldn't faze him coming to a club like Millwall, and it could be an opportunity for him that. You often see from these youngsters, that these Chelsea youngsters, especially at Chelsea, we've seen it quite a lot now over recent years. They get released from Chelsea, and they've got a claim to stake, and they go on and they sign for City or Liverpool, and they have these great careers. And maybe he's got a bit of fire in his belly about that, and he's obviously on the market today. He didn't feature in their game today, wasn't in their squad. That was doing the rounds as well. So maybe there's a deal to be done there. Again, nothing's been confirmed. There hasn't really been some solid rumours about, but the rumour is out there. The stars are kind of aligning, and I think this, again, could be a really massive signing. Maybe not one that you could get over the line as a permanent, maybe a loan with a view to buy, something like that, if we, get promoted, for instance, or something like that, because I don't think they're going to want to let him just go. I think he's going to cost a pretty penny. But yeah, definitely someone I'd be very excited to get, especially looking at the clips that we've had of him, and he just gives us a bit of balance. So one side of the midfield not having this left-footed heavy set of attacking midfielders playing out wide.
Yeah, no, 100%, and we lack a bit of pace.
Agreed.
If you take Femi out, you take Idemo out, I do think we lack a bit of pace. Look, it'd be a perfect player to come in. And really add some pace, because generally I find we're quite good on the transition. But I do think that would add even more quality to it, add a bit more pace, and make it very, very difficult for teams to face him. And I mean, look, he's a player that a championship club aren't going to want to come up against. You know, you can see from the clips we've seen, you know, he's not someone that's going to be easy to deal with. And look, if the deal can get done, look, it's a great deal. If they can get it done, the bare necessity. Look, it's any time that a player hasn't been involved in a match day squad, you always think, right, okay, what's going on? Is there a rumor? Is there something that is there something going on somewhere? It is interesting that he didn't feature in their squad for that day. You know, that is an interesting thing because you think, okay, is there something going on there? So yeah, it's interesting to say the least. I did see the rumours pop up today. Yeah, and it is always interesting when a player doesn't feature for the club on that day. It isn't included in the match day squad. You do suddenly think, right, is there something happening? Which I think would be a great deal if they can get it over the line. And look, I still think this transfer window for Millwall has been a great transfer window in terms of the players that they've brought in, the money that they've recouped as well. Even, you know, I think the last two transfers, the money that the club have recouped has been very, very good. So they've got money now to be able to invest in players, but they have to keep doing it the way they've done it. I think, you know, you sign high potential players, you build them up, and then you move them on.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And you know, we're looking at the transfer window going now, oh, we should have got this, we should have got that. If everyone's fit, we're struggling to get everyone in the team, you know. So it is a good transfer window by that sense and that sense of the imagination. There was another rumour, and you know, another player that, you know, unconfirmed reports as well, that the club were looking into Yusuf Erabi. Lots of reports that he was coming or did come, had medicals, and that now it's off. Obviously, you know, the club haven't confirmed or denied anything, so not much for us to go on there. But if we was looking at a striker like Erabi, and the reports of, you know, a good few million quid, just €5 million, just to put a number on it, is that a position that you think we should be looking at, a striker? Because you never know what's going to happen with Ivanovic. You know, that a club could come in late, meet the requirements that we want. His head is definitely turned, and then he's off. Do we need to get another striker in, do you think? Especially as well with, you know, Nisbet's probably not firing on all cylinders. Langstaff's injured.
Yeah, look, I mean, to me, look, if they were willing to spend the money on a striker, I think they need to look at continuing to have bring that target in. I would say that we will look at another striker. Look, they're going to have had targets, I'm sure. You know, look, they're saying there that he's gone to Genk. If he has, then that's the decision he's made. But listen, I think any club needs to have good striking options. You never know what can happen on a transfer deadline day. And listen, do I think Ivanovic will go? I don't think he will go, personally. To me, I think he still needs a bit more time in the Championship to be ready to play at Premier League level come the future. Which, to me, he's a player that will go on and play there. I've got no doubt that he'll go on and do that. But I do think he needs a bit more time at this level to really flourish and be ready for that jump, because it's a massive jump between the Premier League and the Championship. The gap is huge. I mean, you've seen it the last 2 years with the teams that have gone up. They've all come straight back down because of how difficult it is. I personally think they would have had other targets in place if this one hasn't gone to plan. They're going to have had other targets in place, and look, I would have thought that they will look at bringing another one in. To me, you've got Coburn, you've got Ivanovic, you've got Langstaff as well, but with the injury, you don't know how long that's going to affect him. If you get Coburn or get Ivanovic injured, you're then struggling, aren't you? So, and if we're going to play a two-striker system, then you are struggling. Kevin Nisbet, he hasn't looked to be firing on all cylinders, as you said there earlier. I felt because I watched the game on Tuesday against Coventry, and I felt he was involved, but for me, just doesn't at the minute look like he fits into the system too well. Needs time to adjust to it potentially. Has found it difficult since coming here, hasn't he? I mean, it's different to Scotland. He scored a lot of goals in Scotland for Hibs, and I think he got 12 last year, didn't he, for Aberdeen? So that he can score goals. And as a finisher, I think he's a very good finisher. The majority of the time, obviously. I mean, obviously, yesterday was a bit of a high pressure moment. It didn't go to plan, but he's someone who could score free kicks. He's someone who can score different types of goals. So it is a difficult one. I mean, do you try and persist with him, or do you look at bringing in someone else? I would say that my thoughts would be that they will be looking to bring one in tomorrow. I think that would be if I was Alex Neil, I think I'd be saying to the board, look, we need a backup option in case we lose anyone, even just to injury or anything like that. I think we need to have another option in there.
Yeah, I do agree, and like you say, you don't know what's going to happen in the window. I don't expect Ivanovic to go, but you never know that. Nisbet might go. We still haven't spoken about outgoings yet, so he could go, and you're going to need to replace that, especially if you are adopting the two striker system. You need at least two replacements for them if the going gets tough, or they need replacing, or they're injured.
Absolutely.
Outgoings then. What do you see on any outgoings? Do you think any go out? I think we're in a bit of a situation where we can't really afford to. I would like some of the youngsters to go out. Maybe Adam Mayer could do with going out on loan, especially being sort of fourth choice down at that sort of left back position. But he can be utilised all over the field, really. He's quite a good utility man to have. And then we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And fortunately, you can't play Russian roulette with a transfer window and let these youthful players go out on loan. And on the off chance you might get players in, we can't guarantee that. Do you see any going?
Yeah, look, I don't think they'll let anyone go if they haven't got sufficient cover. I think you'll find throughout the day, look, if they've got deals agreed, particularly for a striker, you might think, right, maybe they may look to move.
That's a dig at me.
Moving on.
That's a dig at me.
No,
in my prediction, Alex, I said I think QPR with the business they've done will make the playoffs. So Daily Mail, very subtly, that's a really good job he's done there. Actually, he's letting me have it. So yeah, let me have it. I understand. Yeah, what a dodgy call. But yeah, no, sorry to
what a dodgy prediction that was.
Yeah, carry on. Live and die by.
Yeah, no, I think if they get the chance for a striker, they might look at maybe trying to offer Kevin Nisbet out on loan, maybe. Because if you look at it, I think it's probably going to be fourth choice. You look behind Coburn, Ivanovic. I would say, and I would think that Langstaff would get the nod ahead of Nisbet. So maybe there's a deal to be done there. They could look at that. Might free up some space on the wage bill to be able to bring in a loan for another position. But other than that, I think it's difficult to see where players will go out, because defensively, I mean, I don't think they'll let Grant go out now, because I think they view him as someone who's got a real chance of being able to come into the first
Yeah,
team
I
at
think
some
Neil
stage.
said as much as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I mean, he looked very good against Coventry, I felt, for the most part. Got a goal as well. So if you look at it, I mean, George Evans potentially to go out on loan. I think they'll send him out on loan because they brought the goalkeeper in, didn't they? So I think a loan for him would be a good thing. You know, he can go out and get some first team experience. But other than that, with the current situation, it's very difficult, I think, to say that they'll let players go out, because with the injury list and with everything else, there's just no guarantees on a deadline day. I mean, look, I've covered a lot of deadline days now, and I've seen things change very, very quickly, and it's a day where things, right, you might have this right at the start of the day, right, where this is what we're going for. This is everything we've got planned, right? And then a simple problem can happen at another club where the player that they were going for hasn't come in, which meant the player you were going to get from that club now can't come through. I mean, I think you're seeing it at Chelsea with Nicholas Jackson now. He's refusing to come back from Bayern because Chelsea had agreed a deal, but obviously something's gone wrong further down the line, which means they haven't got the cover in.
Well, that was Liam Delap. He pulled up with a hamstring, and they've gone, well, we can't let you go now. You've only got one striker. Yeah.
Exactly. So something like that can make such a difference. You know, injuries make a difference. It's so everything in a transfer window, especially on transfer deadline day. Look, they're some of the most fascinating days to be part of, because it's brilliant. I mean, I'm rather glad that the deadline has changed to 7 o'clock instead of 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because I've covered some that have gone late into the night. I mean, you remember the summer one last year went right to the wire. So
I think I remember we had you on the show. You was outside. I can't remember what you was outside. You was outside somewhere. With your phone out, and we was talking to you, weren't you? I can't remember where you was.
Yeah,
but that was late at night. It was like 11 p.m. at night. I think. You know, that was quite late.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So it is good, and they changed it, like they said, to give people normal working hours, which is good. You know, it is.
I mean,
but
look,
it's still open a couple of hours after for paperwork, so things can still go wrong after.
Well, because the thing is, you get something. Of course, the famous deal sheet. You know, as long as the deal sheet is in, it's been signed by the representatives of both clubs and the player moving, and it's reached the EFL, you get the. What a wink inside his gut. Look, it's going to be an interesting day, because I think if they can get a few over the line that they want to bring in, then there's the potential to say, right, okay, we might be able to allow this one in, this one out, that type thing. It moves very quickly, transfer deadline day. So anything can happen. That's the beauty of the last day of the window. But I think going forward, they need to look at shutting it before the season starts.
Yeah, agreed.
Because
it's unnecessary.
It is carnage. I mean,
it's not fair on small clubs, really.
No, it's not. I mean, it's a nightmare for clubs. It's a nightmare for managers. I mean, even Alex Neil said after the game on Saturday, he said he thinks the window closing will be of huge benefit to us, because you know, look, I mean, they've lost Tanganga this week and stuff like that, and all right, they probably knew he was going to go throughout the window at some stage, but it still unsettles you, doesn't it? Because you've been playing, he's been a member of the team. It changes everything, and I think they need to look at having it shut by the time the season starts in future.
Absolutely. To finish off then, gun to your head, how many are we bringing in tomorrow?
I think they'll look at trying to get 3 or 4 over the line.
3 or 4 over the line. 3 or 4.
Yeah, I do think they'll try and get 3 or 4 over the line. Expect it to be busy. I think Alex Neil's hoping that they can get a few in as well.
Yeah.
I'd go 3 or 4, I would say.
I'm going to say the same. I'm going to say 4.
Yeah, I don't expect them all to be permanents. That's for sure. I think if they can get 2 permanents and maybe 2 loans, I think will be the plan. Connor there 4 or 5. I think it's.
I think everyone's kind of on the same page. I think the same. But we've started some of your comments. So while we're wrapping up, let's go through some of your comments now. So Matt says, let's start with the elephant in the room, the keeper situation. Who starts at Charlton, do you think? Now we've got the international break for it to sort of mellow.
I think he'll stick with Bender. I do think he'll stick with him. If you look at it, excellent performance at Sheffield United. I know the performances at the error at Norwich, shall we say, and the 2 mistakes yesterday, they do bring it into question. But I do think he will stick with Bender.
Excellent. As Irabi going to Genk, do we have a backup plan? Yeah, I think we just pretty much covered that. We don't know what's that. We don't know if Irabi's the one that's turned us down or something's gone on, or we can only speculate because the club hasn't even released any interest. So that's all speculation. If he's gone, he was never ours to begin with. So that's fine. BFS and Coburn have been pants since the season start. I think they've been frustrated. More than anything. Transfer winner should have been, as Alex said, and give a good reason why, definitely. Isn't that's Bobby? So Alex isn't a fan of 4-4-2. We agree, like we said, Dan. It may be at home we need to adopt a different system to get after teams a little bit. Connor says Crocombe over Bender. Instead of we've got a big fucking Bender, we've got a shit fucking Bender, says Daily Millwall. This is very interesting as well. Look, Borough and Wrexham both played a 3 at the back, as do Charlton. Yeah. Alex Neil's got to combat that. That is going to be something he's going to have to work on over the break, Alex. No, and I think a 4-2-3-1, putting a 5-man midfield in there is a good way to do that.
Well, look, I mean, I've seen a bit of Charlton since they've come up. Look, they're very good at the back. I watched I went to their playoff final against Leyton Orient. I mean, look, if they get in front, they're very, very hard to break down. They've been very good at home in particular. And look, if you look at Nathan Jones, he's a very, very good coach in terms of how he sets his teams up.
Yeah.
And they are difficult to break down, Charlton. I mean, I saw the highlights of their game at Bristol City. I think if anywhere you're going to get goals against Charlton, it's going to be on transitions, which is, again, I think could be a strength of Millwall's. If they can get a bit of pace on both wings, then I think they cause Charlton problems. Charlton's midfield, I'm not too sure about their midfield. They've got Greg Doherty in there. I'm not sure Championship quality. So that's a little bit of a concern for Charlton. I think that's an area we can target against them. But defensively, they are very, very solid. So difficult one. And hopefully, if they can get some new arrivals, that'll be key to when we play Charlton.
Absolutely. As Callum says, I think we need another centre midfielder, a winger, and a striker. I do think we need a right back, but can't see it happening. You're probably right there. Gabriel says that Taylor and Cooper are a League One pairing. I disagree. I think
that one's a bit harsh.
He's one of the best centre halves that this club's ever had, in my opinion. You don't play the amount of games he has and be as available as he has if you ain't. MGFC, he says the same thing, and I do get your sentiment there. The pace could be a bit of an issue, with them talking about it could be, but John Terry never had blistering pace, but he made up for it with a brilliant football mind. So
his excellent positioning.
I'm not comparing him to John Terry, but if Alex Neil feels that they're capable enough, then they're capable enough. Connor says the same thing. We need a right back, centre midfielder, and a striker. I tend to agree. The Austrian winger from Stephen, we covered that. Pace is what's required. We are too slow all over the pitch outside of Marku. Absolutely. And your name, Speed Demon, suggests, are you available on transfer deadline day? Because we absolutely do need that. I couldn't agree with you. If we didn't have injuries, Chris says, none of these players be even in the conversation. Yeah, well, absolutely. Please press that like button. Alan Brown, whilst not a majorly exciting signing, would be shrewd. But yeah, I couldn't agree with this anymore. I think we touched on that. I'd be
I
really,
think it's a fantastic agreement.
Really happy with that. And we've given our reasons why. It's interesting to see how many games that Alan Brown has actually played in the Championship. But I think he's up there with some serious numbers. The amount of games that he's played for Preston and for Sunderland as well in two really good teams at the time. He has played. I'm just going to get up there. He's played 368 Championship games. That's a serious...
that tells you everything you need to know. It tells you everything you need to know. You don't play that amount of games at this level if you're not good at what you do.
Exactly. He's played in the
this is a tough league to play in.
Yeah,
exactly. He's a quality player. Absolutely quality player.
He's made over 437 EFL appearances, played in the Championship player final, played in 3 League One player finals. He's played in 14 FA Cup games, 368 Championship games. He's got 47 goals, 26 assists. Absolute no-brainer. Absolute no-brainer whatsoever.
I think if you ever get presented with the opportunity to sign a player like that, you should always, should grab it with both hands.
Yeah, absolutely. Daily Mail says Ivanovic changes agents in the summer. The same agent as SA. Very interested because I thought SA was a bit more of a family affair. Could be wrong. But yeah, maybe. I think Ivanovic has had his head turned. Certainly looked like head turns maybe a bit of a strong word. I think maybe just playing on his mind. He's a kid. He's 20 years old. He's sort of gone from, Valladolid. I can't remember pronounce the name of the club he was at, and he's gone to stardom instantly. In 6 months, he's getting all these big clubs making big offers for him. So no doubt it's 100% affecting. Kone, as Daily Mail makes his usual dig at me, which I accept. It would have been a great sign, especially if the rumoured money for Arabi is true. You could have spent the exact same amount, pretty much or almost, on Richard Kone and got an EFL ready striker. I agree. Sinclair Armstrong's an interesting striker as well, Alex. I quite like him. I think he's big, physical, could fill that role as well. He's only young.
Yeah, look, I think, did well when he first came into the Championship as well. Would fit the role quite well. I saw the comment there about Ivanovic. Listen, I think he is only 20 years old. Look, he's going to have loads of things going around in his mind. You see rumours. They see everything we see on social media, so it's inevitably going to have an effect on him. And you can't blame that on him. Look, he's 20 years old. And let's not forget, he's only been in the country for a year. Yeah. There's a lot that's going to be going through his head, going through his mind, and listen, it happens. Players have the transfer window affects players in so many different ways. And I think, as I said earlier, I think you'll see a big difference in him when the window's shut, when he can just focus on his football and not have to worry about any speculation.
Could not agree more. Absolutely. And last but not least, something for you to answer, because you may have, heard some rumblings, or Alex Neil may have give you an insight into it. But the burning question: where's Lovelace? Where is he? What is actually happened to him?
It's an interesting question, isn't it? He picked up an injury or re-aggravated an injury because signed him from Rangers. Obviously, was injured when he signed, and I think he re-aggravated that injury, which kept him out. There was no definitive time schedule put on it when he came or when the injury was revealed. So again, it's not been said when he will be back. Wasn't a question, funny enough, that came up on Saturday. Might be just because we haven't seen him for so long. It didn't get asked. But yeah, I definitely think it. I definitely think it's one to be asked at the next game. I mean, obviously he's had injuries, he's had issues, but again, it's someone else who we've not seen a lot of since he's come back. So, in terms of, do I know anything different than what we'd already know? The answer is no on that one.
Excellent. Yeah, that's all we've got. Been a really good show, mate. It's there's an if any of you've noticed or picked up on that, there's an Austrian flag flying across the scene from our behind the scenes editor. That could mean one of two things, or it probably only means, it probably does mean one or two things, that the Third Reich is probably rising in Austria again, or that we've got an Austrian that's coming through the door. We don't know, remains to be seen. But if that is accurate and that report is starting to come to fruition a bit, Alex, what a signing that's going to be to end on the show with, if that is now sort of getting grounds as being confirmed sort of accurate reports on TNO.
Do you know what? I think it'd be a fantastic arrival if they can get it over the line. Look, I mean, I don't know anything different from the time I've been on here. So, but look, if they can get it over the line, I think it's a fantastic deal if they can get it over the line, because he'll add a lot of quality, and he will cause big trouble for Championship defences if we can get it over the line.
Well, either that or we've got Josef Fritzl on loan. Yeah, you never know.
Josef Fritzl. Oh, God.
You never know.
Anything's possible on transfer deadline day.
Exactly. And knowing us, if we sign Josef Fritzl, he will come in with a hamstring injury and he won't be available for a few weeks anyway. So, but no, listen, look, great show that we've gone for now for quite a while now. So, look, remember everybody, look, the transfer window does shut at 7 p.m. tomorrow. There is a 2-hour grace period to go through. Keep, obviously, all your notifications on. Keep your notifications on from us. You can follow Alex at AlexGrace12 on socials as well. Alex gets a lot of the info as well. And you can follow me just if you want to see me make myself sound like a cunt sometimes on Twitter and some of the things I say, which is accurate from Mickey in the background. But yeah, keep an eye out. Let's hope we all get what we're after and we end the window on a bit of a high. Please like, please share, please subscribe. Alex, thank you very much for your company tonight. It's been really, really good, mate.
You're more than welcome, my friend. Not a problem at all.
And with that, we will see you on the next one, everybody.
Oh, giddy up and get away. Oh, we're going Millwall, how we're going today. Here we go. Rocking all over the dance.